to the Educators Book Club in the month of July. I'm going to share my screen and you can see myself and my two lovely co-hosts, Mr. Colbert and Mr. Parry. How are we?
Hello, very good, thanks.
I feel like this is a safe space to say that in our pre-chat online, we're all feeling a little bit wintry and maybe even end of termy. So thank you for joining us. We always are so excited to have people in the audience, and we love to hear from you, the books you're reading and the things you're thinking about in the education space. So please come up a bit later in the chat and share with us. Please be aware it is being recorded. But, we are going to start off with our monthly Mark. Tell us about your background.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll tell you about my background. This is a return to the State Library of New South Wales. So
Oh,
this is
a
this main
repeat.
main kind of reading area. It's this huge, really nice room. Many of you would be aware of it. Maybe you've sat in it, but it's through that door in the background.
Mm,
It's a huge room filled with books. And then in the corridor, this is part of this object gallery, objects library that they have. Not in this photo, but there was a couple of gold Logies, television awards, and other sort of objects of historical, note. So that's my background. I quite like
beautiful.
the State Library. They're doing renovations.
I like that we have had a repeat background. We're getting an insight into, you know, the life of Mark outside of this 1 hour a month.
Oh yeah,
There you
Forget
go.
where's Wally, where's Mark for this month?
where's Mark? Yeah, so I look a little bit like where's Wally?
Love it.
Um,
Now, this month we're really excited because we do have a guest author, Norm Hunter,
yes,
and we would like to invite you up here onto the spotlighted stage.
I
Mark, I listened to your interview with Norm about his book recently, but I'm going to hand over to you to introduce him and kick us off with the book.
Okay, thanks, Lottie. You should be able to see my screen. This is Norman's book, Between the Idea and the Reality: Decision Making for the Thinking Educational Leader. Now, I read the book and I chatted, as you said, I chatted to Norman a couple of months ago. And essentially, I really like this book because central to the book is this idea of ambiguity, but it's a very practical book as well. And so it explores, and it's also a reflection of somebody's lived experience as well.
Mm,
So there's a few different reasons why I found it really interesting, very practical, and I guess it acknowledges the complexity of where we are in our current era. We've sort of there's lots of things going on in the world, as we know, and so it was really nice to chat with Norman, and he is here with us. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to bring Norman up. Okay, here
welcome,
we
Norm.
are. Welcome. Can you hear us? Okay.
Sorry, Mark, you're speaking to me?
Maybe
Yes,
Yes.
not.
Norman. I
Yes.
should have said
Yeah,
over.
you just dropped out there momentarily. Yes, hello, and it's lovely to be invited to join you all tonight.
So what's the response been over the last? The book's been out for a while now. Uh, what can you tell us about how it's been received by the educational community?
Well, it's been very nice, Mark. Erica McWilliam, who is adjunct professor at the QUT, Erica's retired from full-time work, but she's still teaching at the university, working with schools. She's been working with a school in Brisbane, and she asked me to join her in it. And what's come out of that is that Erica has devised two semester units for the QUT's Masters in Educational Leadership degree, and she's using my book as the base reference. So I've been in for a couple of sessions with 15 people some of them from the school's leadership team and some who are teachers, some who are middle leaders, all of whom see themselves as leaders, which is something I've tried to say in the book. So that's been lovely. The publisher, Alicia Cohen from Amber Press, just makes contact periodically, and she said the book is selling steadily. And she said that's what we want to see, because sometimes a book arrives and there's a bit of excitement, and then it fades away. And she said that's because word of mouth has kind of said it was interesting, but that's about it. But she said word of mouth is apparently going nicely and it's selling steadily. And Mark, I think you're aware that I had a phone call a couple of weeks ago to tell me that the book's been awarded the Hedley Bear National Educational Writing Award for 2025 by the Australian Council for Educational Leaders, which is lovely.
Congratulations.
Some schools have ordered, usually through a principal whom I've known personally along the way, have ordered 9, 10, a dozen copies for their leadership group, and others whom I don't know have come in, they've commented. So I guess the short answer is it's been a lovely response. I've been really chuffed.
Good.
I didn't know if anyone would want to read it, but Alicia from Amber Press said,
"Oh, I can see."
Thanks, Mark. Mark, I've got a 100-question quiz on the book. I'll send it to you to be completed by the end of the week.
Very good. Matt's got in the audience. He's holding up his copy of the book. In fact,
I was just thinking, Mark, for people who haven't read the book,
that's right.
Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about the intention behind writing it and what the key message is from your perspective.
Lottie, I guess what was behind it more than anything was to try to help young people coming into leadership, school leadership, to see that the way to be a school principal is not to follow the kind of action-oriented, solutions-focused, quick-thinking, decisive leadership model, because that model is appropriate in an emergency, in a military situation, which one could say Donald Trump is using in that situation now, but that model essentially doesn't work, especially as for a school leader, because I've made the point that, as Hedley Bear pointed out, maybe, 15, 20 years ago, schools are society's most complex organizations. There is not agreement on their purpose. Every other human-focused organization, like a hospital, there's no confusion about why we have hospitals. Everybody agrees why we have hospitals, to help people get well. If we can't help them get well, to help them through as best we can. Another human organization is a prison. We know why prisons exist. They exist to keep some people out of society for a significant period of time. We call them correctional centers, and that is clearly part of the purpose. But when you ask people the purpose of schools, you will get multiple responses, and some of them can be conflicting. You'll hear from parents, for example, that they want your school to give their child the best opportunities to go to university, to get a good, best possible ATAR. Other parents will tell you that they want their children to be good citizens. Other parents will tell you that they want their values of their family and sometimes their religious background to be reinforced at the school. And some will say, school is for the preparation of young people for the workplace. And of course, there's validity in every one of those. And that's where the term ambiguity kicks in, because ambiguity is a time when the situation is not clear, And if you're a leader, you have to do something about that. You can't be leading an organization without an agreed sense of purpose. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? And it took me a while to realize that as a principal, that I had 21 years in the role. And if I couldn't learn something in that time, there's something wrong, isn't there? Yeah, well, it's interesting because the publisher who published the book was back to me within a week and said, she said, this is good. I really like it. It's different. Nothing else about educational leadership that's come through to me takes this kind of approach. And so she said, you've got to lose 10,000 words. But we managed to work that through. The other publishing company said, we've got an email back and said, thank you. I've got a backlog of scripts and we'll be back to you. So 6 weeks later, Alicia has sent me the copy of the book to do it's printed and it's the final proofread by me, by the editor, by her, and I think some other people. And in that same week, the other publishing company got back to me. This is 6 weeks after I'd sent it, and said, we want to publish this. So, and that was the one who wanted me to change the chapter headings anyway. So,
And Norm, the other thing that stands out is every book under the sun will say it's research informed, but your one says it's literature informed as well, as in capital L books and things that we like to talk about. How did you, using a different approach rather than John Hattie and crew say, ... How did you bring in literature and sort of how did that become a part of the book?
yeah, that was interesting, Steve, because when I set out, I wanted to combine my research, my reading, and my experience. And as I started to develop it, literary references kept coming into my mind. And so I went with that, and they found their way in quite a significant way throughout the book. I think in places I've given equal status to a literary reference, say by Charles Dickens, written in the 19th century, with 21st century research. They just seem very compatible. And when Dickens describes an organization that it has no human qualities to it, it's just a soulless factory, that's different from an academic researcher talking about that. Dickens takes you there.
Well, I had a question. Having listened to the podcast and not read the book, you're obviously a deeply intentional and reflective school leader. I wondered about your advice, building capacity of staff and confidence for other school leaders out there.
Yeah, Lottie, I've said in the book, didn't have much to say about it in the podcast with Mark, but in the book I've devoted some time to talking about my experience as a professional musician. And one of the people whose music I enjoy, but also who has puzzled me as a leader, is Miles Davis. And actually a bit's been written about Miles Davis. And one of the things that Miles Davis said was that when he leads a band, he's got an idea of where he wants this music to go, but that's not enough. He wants other people to bring their talents, their insights to it. And he said, and I believe that many people don't actually realize the talents, the insights that they have. And my role, this is Miles talking, my role is to draw that out. And my music is infinitely better when I can tap that. And, that's what we do. The number of times as a school principal, as a high school principal, I've been in conversation with teachers or with kids even, and I've just sensed there's real leadership here, but they don't realize that. So I did want to say that. I wanted to suggest to leaders, look for that. It's going to be there. It's going to be there in every school. Look for it. Have your antenna up.
Matt, I'm just wondering, do you want to come up and have a chat And have you read the book?
Or is it on the pile?
Is it
It's
on the
been
pile?
read.
I'm going to bring
Wow.
you up. We've got a
It's been read.
Matt, I missed your
oh, hang on.
question. Could you ask your question again?
Oh, I
Where
haven't
is
asked anything yet. I just like, I guess if I was going to, the thing I really liked about the book was I love a good framework, especially for leadership, being that I'm always trying to be a better leader. And I think the focus on the things that are not as tangible was something that really had an impact on me, and especially the 4 chapters on culture and breaking that up into trust and components. That I think there's such a focus on things you can see and pick up, and that's what we're measuring when there's so much that is kind of in the background, and it's just as important. And I think, that to me is what sort of stuck. And I read the book maybe a month ago or so. But yeah, and the links between things other than just academic type research, that was really different and interesting, and it was really, really easy to read. And I think sometimes leadership books all have a bit of a sameness to them, but this one was a little bit more captivating, so I really enjoyed it. But I think, yeah, that's what I came away with, a focus on don't forget the things that you are not as easy to see, because they're sometimes they're the driver of the things you can see.
Yeah, and I wanted to be honest about that too, Matt, and I thought back, when did I, along with my leadership team and the various leadership teams I worked with, when did we get it wrong? What was it about those decisions that when we got it wrong? And it all came down to missing something. There was something there and we missed it, and we missed it because we weren't looking for it. And it's there. And we learned, especially through the use of metaphor, which interestingly is a literary, not an academic technique, but the use of metaphor. The one from June, the first sentence of June, about getting the balance right. The one from Zorba the Greek about not rushing in too soon. And you can actually do damage, not just get it wrong, but do damage if you rush in too soon. They were all cautionary things that fitted into that approach using Bowman and Deal's metaphors. I was very fortunate because I did the Leadership Institute course at Harvard in the mid-90s, which is a 2-week course, a summer institute course. And Lee Bowman was one of the presenters, and their book had just been published, the first edition of that book. And it absolutely hit me. I said, this is outstanding. This is great. This is really going to add to what we do.
Now we're going to wrap up with you in a few minutes, Norman. But I'm wondering what are you reading at the moment? You're doing, I'm going to put you back. I'm going to remove your spotlight, Matt. Well, you're on the spot.
Yeah, well, I'm an interesting character. I was brought up in an Anglican family, and I haven't gravitated closely to organised religion, though I was principal of an Anglican school for 21 years. But I find great wisdom in the Bible. And there is a novel. It's called The Book of God, and it's the Bible as a novel. And it's a absolutely fascinating read. So that's my, call it non-fiction read. I'm reading call it fiction. That one's a novel. That's a literary work. The non-fiction work, I'm reading a book by Ethan Mollick about AI, because I think that if I'd written the book now, I would have had a chapter on AI, because it's got huge implications for leadership. And Ethan Mollick he's a professor at an American university. I think it's Wharton, Wharton, but I'm not positive.
Co-intelligence?
Co-intelligence. Yeah, that's the one. Who
Yeah,
said that? Was that Mark?
me. I'm gonna
Mm.
share my screen.
Yeah, co-intelligence. And he really he's written a book about something complex, and he's made it so readable. And it's both scary and exciting. And I think that everyone in a leadership position has got to have some kind of understanding with their leadership team about how we approach this stuff. I mean, and not just with the kids. I mean, we're coming to terms with how kids use it, and what we haven't come to terms with yet is how much do leaders use it. I mean, teachers are asking AI to write reports. I use it, and I find it. I can just imagine law clerks who've had to troll through previous cases and find them and read through them. They ask an AI to call up the previous cases. It's done it within a minute. And the other thing that Malik says that I think applies very strongly to leadership is that he said, look, even if you think you've got something covered, you're dealing with, say, a bullying issue, tell the AI what you've come up with and ask it if it can come up with anything more that you should have thought of but didn't. And he guarantees that it will do that. You may not use that extra stuff, but it'll come up with more than you can come up with. Ask it about leadership and do dot points, all the important dot points about leadership, and then ask an AI like Copilot to do it. And the other thing he says, which is I find scary, is that they use this word hallucinate. And ChatGPT, for example, hallucinates. He said, you've got to understand that there are some AIs, their purpose is not to get the best information for you. Their purpose is to please you. And if they can't find an answer, they'll make it up. And he talks about a colleague of his at his university who drew up, he asked an AI, and I think it was ChatGPT, to design a whole semester unit for master's students. And it did. And he didn't check it. It was an absolute disaster. Students were running around in circles saying, this is ridiculous. What's going on here? So it's a fascinating book. I really recommend it. And it's written in such a readable manner.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for the recommendation. We're gonna we're gonna continue on with our show. So please feel free to join us in the audience. And we'll be drawing people up from the audience if they're willing to talk about what they've been reading. I'm going to chat about something in a minute, and so is Stephen. And I think Lottie was listening to a podcast. But thanks for joining us, Norman, and enlightening
Thanks
us.
for the invitation, everybody. I'm delighted that you invited me, and it's lovely to chat with you. And I will stay around if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
Thanks, Norm.
And also, Mark, the sign of a good reader when you say, "What are you reading?" Well, there's my non-fiction, and then there's my fiction, and then there's my,
or just
there's
they have
by the
a
desk, and then
bookcase
there's by the
behind
cup
them
of
that's
tea.
very full.
Yeah.
Well, because it's been such a short period of time between book club events, I am doing other kind of reading, but I'm not going to talk about that. I thought, what can I read that's quick? And so I sought out an academic paper to read, just like the old edu reading days. I thought, oh yeah. And so I'm going to share my screen.
Well, while Mark is sharing his screen, would you like to explain what edu reading on Twitter was, Stephen? Go on.
We got to have the full frame for that. We can't just
everyone knows about it, Lottie.
Come on, tell us all about it.
People might be wondering what Twitter is. What is she talking about?
Hey, look, in Alice's book,
I need reminded.
I was like hot jumping. My skin came out in hives. I was like, oh, the bird tweeted, having flashbacks to the Twitter days. Edu reading ran from roughly 2018 to 2024, and we read an academic article a month, and it was a whole bunch of teachers. And initially I said no academics were allowed, and then an academic said, "Can I come too?" And I said, "Yeah, all right." But yeah, so we got through like 60 academic papers, and it was very formative for many of us. At
And
least for me, it was.
and true
Um,
story, it's where the three of us really first met.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
that's right. Oh,
Steve, I was
There's
having a joke
music.
with you. I said, can you tell us the names of all 60 papers? That's all.
to be honest, I probably could,
So,
but no one wants to see that happen, so I won't.
Now,
But
now that
yeah,
you too are in academia, Mr. Colber.
well, that's right. Well, that was part of the thing that. But I did read recently, just on LinkedIn yesterday, someone said that we shouldn't be using something called Sci-Hub, which is like apparently they put academic articles up there. And this person was saying that we should definitely not upload our own academic articles there because it will double their citations. And I was like, oh, interesting and funny,
Yeah.
but only to me, obviously. So moving right along, Mark, what'd you read?
Okay, I'm going to share. I was.
Right.
This is an article, an academic paper about AI, and it's published by Apple. The people that, the engineers, they did
mm.
some research and they wrote up their findings in this paper, The Illusion of Thinking, Understanding the Strengths and Limitations of Reasoning Models via the Lens of Problem Complexity. Now, I did a little bit more investigating. It's not a peer-reviewed paper, and it's not
That's
published
what I
in
was
any.
checking, Mark.
It's not published in an article, and so
Mhm.
if you kind of work in academia and academic research, you would know what's implied by those two pieces of information. However,
Mhm.
I thought because I guess it appealed to me because it's got a bit of had a pop culture kind of resonance. It became really popular and people were talking about it. I'm just gonna, rather than talk about the article, I'll talk about it in a minute. But it had lots of responses. So
Mm.
here's a whole article about the article, and then another one, and then there was even a memes that started to pop up
Wow.
about. So it's kind of got a bit of traction, but the thing that I liked about it is there was a diversity of opinion about it. And so essentially, this is a little bit of a clue. This is like a puzzle. This is called the Tower of Hanoi. And basically, you might be familiar with it if you have young children with blocks or whatever. You've got to transfer all of these stacked discs onto the rightmost peg, and you're not allowed to have anything that's larger on top of a smaller disc. So there's rules of logic, and so you've got to do it in a systematic way. And so what the AI has been, there's this thing called not large language models, large reasoning models. Okay, this sort of new development. So, what the people at Apple thought they would do is that they would test it. So, they went through very systematically and they recorded their findings. They didn't just do it with the Tower of Hanoi, they did it with other kind of logic puzzles, checkers or drafts. This river crossing, which is like it's like even it taps into a fairy tale of like the fox and the scorpion, I think it is. So there's all these are informed by logic, and so what they found, I'll give you the short answer. This is the punchline. See these charts or these graphs. I'll make it larger, but essentially it's doing a good job, doing a good job, doing a good job, and then all of a sudden just drops off. And
Mm.
so they
Drops,
found that
literally drops its bundle.
it's just not coping with it. And it goes to zero, not just like, oh, almost. It just goes to absolute zero and then just flatlines. And they found that that was across multiple providers. And
Mm.
so, like this kind of idea of overthinking, and I guess it's intriguing because it's already in this kind of realm in the language one uses. Is it really thinking? And that's why it's called the illusion of thinking. But one of the memes you might have noticed is that Apple the illusion of thinking, but then the illusion of the illusion of thinking, because critics are saying, well, Apple has just, this is just publicity. It's just like a big ad. So they're kind of still relevant. And so I guess I'm kind of, there's no definitive findings except right at the end, they say, well, we need to do more research. And I guess I found it interesting because of its ambiguity. It's like it's promising, it's giving all these answers. And I found that the kind of overthinking computer overthinks and can't handle the tasks, and that's backed up by data. But
Mm.
then the paper is actually not embraced by, I would think, the academic engineering community. There's a diversity of opinion. And so I guess I was kind of hesitant to bring in an AI related reading, but it seems like everyone in town is somehow it's still the topic of conversation, and it's good to have a dialogue. I think about these sort of you know emerging technologies, good or bad, or up or down. So that I think that's all I've got on it. I just almost wanted to bring it to your attention that
Thank you, Mark, for
you
bringing it
did.
to
Well,
our
even
attention.
to further contextualize it, Mark, so it was published in June of this year,
Oh
and it's
yeah,
already
hot
been
off.
cited 14 times,
Uh,
and we are only in the 1st of July. So something a bit funny's happening there. If it can come out, even if it like benefit of the doubt, if it came out in the 1st of June, to think that 14 other singular scholars or academics could have a paper that already, I don't know, Mark.
Look,
All
I
I'm
ain't no
saying is that's a bit
researcher.
fishy where I come from.
I don't have a PhD. I am not a researcher, so maybe.
Neither do I, Mark. But I know a rat when I see one, kind of thing. So whatever
So
they've done, they've
it's just,
somehow flagged that this is coming out, and people have already had papers linking to it, which is
I
Mark,
interesting.
find it very ironic that the title of this paper is called The Illusion of Thinking. And yet 2 days ago I saw a post on LinkedIn, which I didn't have time to properly check, which is why I didn't share it, about the reduced amount of brain activity that we are doing when we're using AI and the lack of
yeah.
neural pathways. And over the long term, the great concern, obviously, this is going to be, are we going to become more stupid because we're not thinking deeply and critically anymore and outsourcing our thinking? Or will we use it as a, learning companion to allow us to do more deeper thinking? What do the
Or
kids say,
will
hey?
it further separate the dum-dums from the
Well,
non-dum-dums?
what do the people in the
Must eight
audience
people in
say?
this book club be sitting here going, well,
If you want
I've
to
been
have a,
thinking all day. I didn't take a single break.
Mark, does that
We're
in
talking
that
about
paper, do they? Am I coming through now? I'm off the
yes,
mute.
loud and
In the
clear.
in that paper, do they enter the territory of moral purpose? A lot of
I
a
didn't
lot of
see that
my
reference.
research about decision making came back to Michael Fullan's model, which has 5 inputs to it, but all of them are driven by moral purpose. He said especially in a school, and I just wonder if that paper went into that territory,
It was
because
pretty.
AI, it's one of the areas that AI pretends to go into. It pretends to empathize and
Well,
whatever.
this is the nature of why I'm interested in it, because it's sort of presenting it as having a solution in a certain area, but it kind of isn't really. It's kind of like pretending, or it's, I don't know, a bit of smoke and mirrors possibly.
Hmm.
Mm.
I know that's an anecdotal, evidence. I cannot bring evidence to the table.
Personal
Ethan
reflection.
Ethan Mollick, in the beginning of his book, says, "Look, this is just the beginning of AI. This is just like the first computer that took up a whole room. This is going to be incredibly difficult to even get our heads around." And he says, "Here's my advice." This is Mollick. He says, "This is my advice. This is not a search engine. This is way beyond search engines." He said, "You have to assume that you're dealing with a fellow human being, and at the same time, you have to keep reminding yourself that you're not."
Yeah,
And there's
that's
the
right.
world of ambiguity, you know. But
And I
see,
think the
I've
largest uptake of AI in the world at the moment is for companionship, is actually companion bots,
yeah,
which has been
yeah,
discussed in one of the podcasts I listened to
yeah.
recently. And this is very concerning. You know, we have the connected curriculum author here, Connection AI bots. I'm sure you've got something to say about that too.
Yes,
Thanks.
including romantic relationships. And see, there's an interesting part in Moloch's book where he deliberately insults the AI. He said it's given him a response, and he says, "Look, that's the greatest load of rubbish I've ever come upon in my life. How could you insult me with coming up with such garbage?" And the AI replies, "I'm sorry that you feel that way about what I've come up with, and I hope you'll continue to have confidence in my integrity." And so it goes.
How
It,
polite.
uh,
Yet
and
how
it says,
sounds
and
like a scoundrel.
at the
A
end,
scoundrel.
well, it's
I
right
love
in
it.
Sorry
the,
you feel that way.
it's yeah, it's right out of that what you're talking about, Lottie. It's pretending to empathize. It's learned how to
Mm,
empathize, but it's
mm,
not. It's just a machine, or it's just a
mm.
collection of. It's quite scary.
It is.
So
See, I
welcome,
say if I
Carolyn. Oh, sorry, Norman. You
oh,
go.
I finished asking it to do something. The one I use is Copilot, and I thought I'll say thanks. That was very helpful, and see what response I get. So I said thanks. That was very helpful, and back comes. Thank you, Norman. It's nice to be appreciated because I have done my best too. And so it goes, and
And
keep
then you're
reminding
suddenly
yourself.
trying to please the AI bot. I mean,
Yes,
what is
Mm.
going on here?
yeah.
Thanks,
Sorry,
Norm. Hi,
Carolyn. I know you
Carolyn.
wanted to speak.
Carolyn, do
Uh,
you have a question for us
Probably more a
or comment?
comment. The first one is just a short one. I don't know if any of you were on the DIF panel the year, not last year, the year before. And one of the things that Lauren Sayett talked about when we were talking about the AI thing was that she said, what we are seeing is the very worst AI model. It's going to keep getting better and better and better. Now, that's in response to somebody who said something about AI getting better. I can't remember who it was, but I know that that's what the response was. The other thing was, do you remember when Brett Salakis shared that statement to go into ChatGPT and say, based on our conversations to date, is there something about me that you think I don't know?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And it came back with this piece, and I thought, oh my God, can I have this as my eulogy, please? Because it was saying everything that I would have wanted to be said about me. And so I had about a week's enjoyment out of that until Leon published an article on sycophantic AI. And I thought, okay, so that goes that. And then Marek Kowalkiewicz, whose name I can't pronounce, the economy of algorithms. He spoke at a thing at LCI in Melbourne. And he was talking about all of the potential issues with AI models, and even how you can't trust AI checkers, which I was really relieved about, because I had this feeling that AI was, what do you call it when you use somebody else's work?
Plagiarism.
Plagiarizing. I got this feeling that AI was plagiarizing me. And given that they say you should work at a year 10 level, I was a bit concerned that they thought my writing was only at a year 10 level until this guy said you can't actually, things like Turnitin, things that you look onto to say, is this written by AI? You can't trust it. Because
No, it's quite a well. That's one of the huge talking points. It's harder and harder to discern authenticity, maybe.
Mm.
Now, Carolyn, we could talk all day about AI,
Yes, but let's
I
not.
do not want AI to hijack our book club for July.
Absolutely not.
There's valid perspectives. Can you tell us what you've been reading?
Okay, so I've just gone on to Audible and got the rules thingy for academics because I have been trying very hard to listen to belonging without othering, because it just sounds like it fits in exactly with what I talk about in to do with importance of culture and cultural appropriation and all of those sorts of things. But it has been the person who wrote it. Are they here?
No.
Okay.
They
We're
could
going to
be.
get, we're going to get a very
No.
honest opinion.
There you go.
It yeah, I mean,
Chances are
it
pretty
just
high that you're safe. There's only
sounds
8 of us here.
exactly what I'm interested
Feel
in.
free
but-
to express your thoughts, Carolyn.
Well, I think the person who reads it.
Which is you.
No, I'm doing the audio book.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I see what you mean.
The audio one, and the guy who's reading it, either I can't imagine that a book about this topic could be that dull
So what is the
and
topic?
tedious.
What is the topic? It sounds interesting already, but you're kind of not painting it in a...
Anti-racism or something like that.
Well,
Decolonizing.
each of the chapters goes for an hour and a half. And as I said, I think to Mark, I like to go to bed and listen to a chapter. I haven't made it through the second chapter yet. I keep falling asleep.
Maybe AI could provide a summary. I mean, no, I didn't say
Well,
that.
actually, you can buy a summary. You can buy a thingy that goes with
a version.
which I'm
An
thinking
abridged
about.
version.
No, it's more like a study notes companion piece, which I think could be helpful. But I'm really looking forward now to starting this 12 rules one.
What's the 12 rules one? I'll look that up.
That's me. That's
Stephen,
throw to
over to
me.
you.
That's
let's
my territory.
throw to. Can we throw to Stephen, please, Carolyn?
Let me just close all the
throw to anybody you like, Mark.
all the
one with
AI tabs that I had open, chasing up that article and thinking something a bit fishy about that article. Anyway, what was it? Thursday night last week was driving out to Mentone for an ASIL event. And I thought, oh yeah, I'll give this a listen. Why not? Pop it in. Audiobook read by the author, who's former dean, professor, clever person. But I thought that's the wordiest, most complicated title I've seen in a little while, even for us academic types who like to do a title and then a colon and then another title. So it's basically Jordan Peterson wrote a book or several books, 12 Rules for Life,
That's right. Yeah.
useful gems like clean your bed, wash your face, stuff like that. But I guess I've never read it, but in theory, they're kind of more broader sweeping than that, and can be applied everywhere. But she talks about someone called Smiles was his last name, and his book was called Self-Help, and he begun the self-help genre. And she's basically saying that Jordan Peterson is the him of our era, which is, telling people that if they just try hard and everything will be all good. But it's a book, hard to recommend book, because I know that I'm a strange Venn diagram of interests and things that I like. But she's basically rewritten his 12 rules with the mindset of an academic or a professional thinker type. And all throughout it, it's like a feminist manifesto with, here's what feminism is, here's books you should read, as well as each chapter dunking on Jordan Peterson in the most intellectually rigorous way possible. there's a chapter about, I think it's Rule 11, where basically Jordan Peterson's wife got cancer, and then he like didn't leave her, but sort of abandoned her. And you're thinking, oof, gee, this is kind of tough. That's a tough thing to criticize someone about. But then the author turns around and says, here's how I lost my partner to cancer. And then she explains what she did and the toll it took. And, like, it's just powerful, powerful stuff. So not what you expect from an academic book with kind of, we'll hit this theory, then we'll hit this other theory, then we'll hit this other theory. Like it's, yeah, very impressive cultural insights, musical references, pop culture references. Like it's the most
Oh, this is
pastiche
that's your
book.
star rating that we were looking at then.
Well, that's 15 people. It's got a 4.47 out of 15.
Sorry,
Mine's a 5. Yeah.
I interrupted your it has pop culture reference, it's got all this, but you generally you did enjoy it or you didn't enjoy it?
Oh yeah, no, it's amazing. It's probably that, like, I think if I could finish my life having written one book like that, then it would be like, cool. Put me in the coffin and I'll go to sleep, since since we read a lot of things from similar genres, education, leadership, like Norm was saying, how his book was different to your average leadership book. This is different from any book I've ever read in my, 38 years of life. So
Wow.
real good, real good. I audiobook listened to it, then I went and read bits of it on the screen, saved it to my desktop. Like, yeah, good, but also noting that I'm strange in a number of different ways, mostly intellectually. And so it's hard for me to say, yeah, everyone should read it. Like it's not, But yeah, I think there's a real space for bringing the personal and the professional together in a way that this book does.
Yeah.
And I'm now currently interested. The audiobook's been recorded by her herself, and then I found a video of her explaining how she does it and why she does it, and that she can have it as a revenue stream and things like that, and how to aggregate and deaggregate and get onto Amazon. And so now there's a whole series of them that I'm now chasing up of hers. But yeah, it's basically like, if you can make a podcast, you can make an audiobook. So now I'm like, whoa. And I must note, as you said, Carolyn, a good audiobook reader person, voice actor, can make or break an audiobook, and hers is amazing. But the general advice would definitely be don't read out your own book because we're not all voice actors. We can write good sometimes. But yeah, this was a rare occasion where it was like, because it's her talking about her and her own stance on things, it was like really moving and powerful. Whereas, yeah, a lot of people, you're like, read by the author, you're thinking, rather it wasn't. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm
that's
going to
me.
check this out. I found it. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm going to check it out.
It's on Spotify. I mean, I'm like, I pay for Spotify. I get my 12 hours of listening. Strange that there's an academic book on there,
Yeah.
but yeah, she makes some points like academics, they're paid for by the government. The government pays the universities who pay their staff. So knowledge they make should be public. It should be out and in the world, but mostly it's hidden behind paywalls.
Yeah, thank you. We only have a few minutes left, but how should we proceed?
I've asked Matt or Alice if they'd like to come up and share a book. Matt,
Julie as well.
would you?
I can quickly.
Yeah.
Please.
It's a hard one to describe, actually. This one.
No. I know that one.
Yes.
See?
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about that one. That's a secret one, isn't it? Doesn't it need its own episode?
Do you want me to let it go? I can hold on to it.
Oh, well, you can tease us, but
Oh, I wouldn't dare. Here's what I'll say about it. It's a real roller coaster, and it's actually very, very hard to describe as a dad and as somebody who really has just such a soft spot for the kids that are described in the book. I actually found it really emotional to read, and not, my daughter's 2, and we're not at the stage where you know, we're looking or having discussions about these things, but it was just really real. And it was,
Yes.
in terms of the books that I have been writing, these 300 words for, which was supposed to be easy at the start. I thought 300 words, that's great. This was really hard 300 words to write, because there's just a lot in it, and the stories in it, like, yeah, it was really easy to read, but it had a lot of impact. And that's kind of my quick review of it. Like, it was very, very good.
I also very much, I know we're not talking about it, but all I will say is, having just finished it, is I very much enjoyed the author's voice and the humor and the kind of get realness of what it is to be a neurodiverse parent. It was yeah, it was just a very authentic sense when you're reading it of, yeah, the challenges and the highs and the lows and the ups and downs. So looking forward to discussing it more officially later.
Hopefully, if we're allowed.
If we're
And
allowed.
also would make a good audiobook too, as you both said, because of that strong author's voice that comes through. Anyway.
Have you got another book you'd like to share, Matt? I
I
know it's only been a hot 3 weeks since our last
like, what a crazy turnaround. Sometimes it's like 2 months, and then like 3 days. I have just started reading this. I don't have a lot to say, but kind of I guess a nice little follow-on. So I'm interested to look at what the difference is, because obviously Andrew comes at it from a slightly different perspective. And so I think they will probably, well, I hope they'll be a good companion for each other. But no, that's where I'm at the moment.
Excellent.
I had the same thought. I was like, I'll have to go back to back. Those two naturally buttress together very well. Yeah.
I did read a very interesting spreadsheet last week, but that's probably more for
Thank you.
Save that one for the book club of one, the Matt Pittman hour. Today we're going to go through our own spreadsheet.
Shall I do a quick share of this podcast?
I think so.
Yeah, do
Yeah,
it.
sure. Why not? So I've been doing lots of driving recently. I live 2 hours out of Melbourne. Been doing lots of work in schools, and so up and back and up and back, and programs. And so the new series of the Learning Future podcast with Luca Pari is out. So I've been listening to, this is one of the many podcasts I've been listening to. This series is actually based on the Stanford D School, which is an innovation hub at Stanford University. And so all the guests are most of them are from, spent time there or done work at the Stanford D School. And there's a whole range of topics. There's, people talking about AI, and I think a couple stood out to me, which I'd recommend. The one with Tracy Burns. I don't know if people remember, in 2020, the OECD put out a paper around 4 potential learning future scenarios. Do people remember that? Let me find it. There was can we see this? The 4 scenarios. There was, school is normal. It will be continued. So she co-wrote this paper. So she kind of revisits this paper a little bit and talks about 5 years on, and, where are we with these 4 potential futures? So that was quite interesting. Future 2 was about essentially outsourcing education, and we see that little bit of flavor with ed tech companies, I think, at the moment in the educational landscape. 3 is schools as learning hubs, so that's really like connected to the community, schools as hubs. And then number 4 is learn as you go, which probably out of all the 4 futures has been the one that's probably most rapidly taken off, which is essentially that kind of learn at your own pace, kids accessing YouTube and AI and all of this technology, and learn as you go. And then we, of course, in working in schools and working with young people, are responding to that and really kind of thinking about our pedagogy and how we're setting up our learners in the classroom. If they can learn at this pace, if they have that independence of learning and researching skills, etc., what does that mean? So yeah, really interesting series of podcasts. I'm really enjoying it at the moment. Tracy Burns was, she talks about AI and systems design. My other favorite one was this one, Assembling Tomorrow with Vision Futures. So I do a bit of work around futures thinking with schools and when planning units of work and things. And so this talks a bit about futures thinking and what it is. And they've actually put out a book around futures thinking. So a lot of these people on this podcast have written books, which you can buy through Stanford D School, and they're all beautifully designed. Like you just feel like you're in an amazing high-end bookshop with all these beautifully designed covers. So yeah, there's a couple of recommendations.
Very good.
Thank you.
So I think that brings us up to time.
It does.
So I'm glad that we had quite a diverse range of different, people talking, sharing. Fast.
Absolutely. And sorry, I'm just like looking at the comment from Stephen. So what we will meet again, we'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when. Sorry, we will meet again in a few weeks. And I didn't just
For August.
In August, and we'd love to have a new guest author. We will announce that in the group that we're on in LinkedIn. So if you're not in that group, please join us, message one of us, and we'll make sure you're in that. That's where all our admin happens. But otherwise, we'll see everyone after a few wintry weeks. Yes?
Great.
Date TBD.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks, Norm, for joining us.
Thank you.
Ka kite anō, take care.